Hold on, I'm gonna have to take this out for a second, but nobody's here yet, so we're good. Oh, you can do managing moderators. Did you know that?
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe we could put. I'm not seeing it yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see if I can switch to that if she's able to.
Should we post that we're live?
We can, yeah, we can definitely post live now, but I want to make sure we're seeing it on. Yeah.
There's 3 people. Say hi to the 3 people.
Is it actually live?
Yeah, it's live. We're live.
Okay.
Say hi to your friends.
Hi, friends.
We have 3 friends here. So, oh, okay, we have a lot more friends. There's 66 friends here now. Say hi, Moby.
Hi. Buddy.
So do you want to start talking about anything? Do you have any questions I can ask you now? Do you want to go ahead and do that?
Sure, I'll
Okay.
follow whatever you want to.
Great.
So these are all questions that have been sent in by different people, and so let's go.
Okay, great. I think I'm going to turn this light off because I think it'll look better without it. Hey, what do you know? It looks better without it.
Okay.
Like you said it would. So,
Can Bagel come up here? Bagel, come up here.
Bagel, you want to come up on the table? Come on.
Come here, Bagel.
Come say hi.
Come here, you wanna come say hi to
Yeah.
everybody?
Yeah, look, say hi to all your
Look,
friends.
Bags.
Yay.
Yeah, hi.
Okay. So, Moby, a lot of these questions are questions that came in when you posted that you were going to do this. So I'm just going to start asking you some because we got some peeps here now. The first question is, when did you make all of these songs for Moby Gratis?
So, because I don't really socialize and I don't date and I don't really have much of a family, I spend a lot of time by myself. And I also love working. It's something I sort of started realizing a long time ago is my perfect Friday night or Saturday night would be spent home just working on music or working on other creative things. So during the pandemic, like many people, I had a lot of extra time. And I gave myself this project of going back through all of my old unreleased songs and finishing them in a way that I could release on Moby Gratis. And I started the process thinking like, oh, maybe there would be a couple of hundred, but then it ended up being 1,500 songs. So right now there are 1,500 finished songs ready to go on Moby Gratis that are free and have the multi-tracks as well. So that's my long-winded way of answering the question, which is basically during the pandemic, it was this process of finishing 1,500 songs. The only other thing I would mention is I removed vocals from everything because part of what I want people to do with the music is collaborate with it. So every song on Moby Gratis is an instrumental because I want people to, like sometimes people will just download the music and use it in a video, use it in a short film, use it for anything. But I also want people to sing on top of it and rap on top of it and play clarinet or percussion or drums or synthesizer on top of it. So each song can be used as it is, but it's also a sort of blank slate for people to collaborate with.
Also, people are wondering, are you still going to release music separate from Moby Gratis, or is everything going on Moby Gratis now?
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to release music separate from Moby Gratis. So as I said, Moby Gratis is instrumentals. You know, instrumentals that anyone can do whatever they want with. But in my mind, a lot of the music on Moby Gratis isn't complete. Like I wasn't trying to finish a song. I was trying to create something that would provide, as I said, sort of like the starting point for other people's creativity. And for my records, presumptuously, when I release a song under my name as a new song or a record, it's a finished piece of music. And of course, with remix culture, anyone can go back and remix it. But I guess that's the very basic criteria is Moby Gratis is sort of we'll call them like 90% finished songs that people can add to if they want. Whereas when I release my own music, I could be delusional, but I think we'll call it like 98% finished.
And people are very interested in like the new songs that are coming to Moby Gratis and how many and how you're making so many.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are 1,500 songs that eventually are going to be put up on Moby Gratis. And we started with 500 because that seemed like a lot, but manageable. I mean, as the person who spent the time making it and then had to go through and listen to everything, I can tell you that going through 1,500 songs takes a lot of time. So the idea is start with 500, let people get familiar with the 500, then add another 500, probably in December or sooner, September, I don't know, whenever you want, and then add the third 500 probably next year at some point. And also by that time, there'll probably be a couple more hundred that we can add. So I would imagine that by this time next year, there will probably be 2,000 new songs on Moby Gratis.
That is so many songs.
It's the benefit of not socializing or dating or traveling. I spend a lot of time by myself in my studio.
People are asking if there's a way to submit music to be used for free. If you'll ever take other people's music or do collaborations with other people.
Interesting question. So right now, Moby Gratis is only my music. The question is, what about including other people's music? And that's a great question that I hope, what I'd like to do is think about it and talk to the tech people who built Moby Gratis about how that might work. Because right now, Moby Gratis is very simple. Like, I finish a song, we put it up there, it's free, no worries. I don't know what technologically and legally the mechanisms would be that would allow other people to submit music. So it's a great question, and I would love to include that functionality, but I wouldn't know how to do it right now. So hopefully that will be an expanded utility of Moby Gratis at some point, but we have to think about how to do it practically and legally.
Another question.
Am I the least cool musician in the world? Like that, I feel like I'm the manager of a Swiss ball bearing factory describing like workplace protocol. So
some people are asking
if anyone can teach me lessons on how to be a cooler musician, and it might involve not using expressions like expanded utility and functionality.
So controversial question. People are asking if you used AI to do any of this.
Oh, here's the thing. I don't want to piss off AI because clearly at some point AI is going to rule our lives, but none of the music on Moby Gratis involved AI in the slightest for two reasons. One, I don't know how to use AI. That's reason number one. Reason two, I love making music. Why would I ask AI to make music for me? Like my friend Laura had this really interesting comment. She's like, I want AI to like clean my house and like water the lawn. I don't want AI to write poetry for me or do music for me. Like let AI do the crappy tasks so we can focus on the creative tasks. So long-winded way of saying there's no aspect of AI in Moby Gratis. It wasn't in the making of the music. We don't have fancy AI algorithms involved in Moby Gratis. Because why? I mean, I'm sure AI is really great for certain things, but you don't need it for creativity.
So this is completely random and not related to Moby Gratis, but might be a fun little break, is people are asking about the art behind you.
Oh, okay. So I'm here at Little Walnut HQ. HQ meaning headquarters. So about 5 years ago, Lindsay, do you want to stick your head in?
Oh yeah, sure.
So.
Hi, I'm Lindsay.
Okay, so Lindsay and Bagel and I started a film and TV and media production company called Little Walnut. And the idea was to use creativity and resources to address interesting issues and help other people make their films and TV shows and animation, but also to work on our own productions. Trying to make creativity that people would actually want to pay attention to. Because as we've seen, unfortunately, there's a lot of great activist content, film, movies, books, that sadly people just don't pay attention to. And so it's the question of, if you care about these issues, you know, animal rights, climate change, human rights, environmentalism, protecting democracy, etc., the old model of just making a documentary and yelling about something, or making a documentary that is hard and unpleasant to watch, like that can be a noble endeavor, but what we found is no one wants to watch it. And it's heartbreaking, because we have friends who will spend years making a documentary or a short film, and it's so well intentioned and it's smart and beautifully produced, but people don't want to watch it. And so our challenge is to work with creators and say, okay, if you care about this issue, how can you craft the message without compromising, but still make something that can actually reach people? So that's Little Walnut in a nutshell. And right now I'm at Little Walnut HQ, and we have a lot of interesting art. I wish I knew how to turn the camera around, because we have, like, there's some shepherd fairies. So behind me, these 6 were made by this amazing duo called Sherio and the Yoke. And they're graffiti artists and tattoo artists, but they also do obviously flat art like this, and they're really good. And then back there is a Renee French drawing of a pug holding a piece of cereal. And then there's an amazing portrait of Bagel the dog that was done by our friend Lindsay Lewis's mom for Bagel's birthday.
With colored pencils, and it looks, it's like
pencils.
photorealistic. It's insane. But
so
that's
maybe-
all you can see really in the frame.
Yeah, so maybe for the next one of these Moby Live talking about stuff that we do, we'll turn the camera in a different direction so you can see the other things that we have here. Because there's a lot. There's like a Mark Ryden over there. Also, we have really good security, so don't try and break in and steal anything.
Okay, back to Moby Gratis. How many hours do you think it takes you to make a song that you're going to put on Moby Gratis? Like on average, how long does that take
What
you?
an interesting question. How long does it take to make a song? That's a real, boy, I should figure that out. Let's say from conception to writing to recording to engineering to mixing to printing, meaning like printing the multi-tracks and all that, I would say, let's say 10 hours per song. And so if I multiply that, that means, so if there are going to be 1,500 songs on Moby Gratis, it's taken approximately, on the low end, 15,000 hours of my life. And I'm not a math genius, but that's a lot of hours.
Do you ever sleep?
I sleep, but sleep is not my strong suit. I've tried everything, like whenever I tell people that I have insomnia or I can't sleep, as I'm sure if anyone out there has insomnia or sleep issues, they receive this sort of advice as well. You know, well-intentioned people who are like, oh, have you ever tried lavender oil? Or have you tried chamomile tea? I'm like, I've tried everything. There is no sleep aid that I have not tried at least 100 times, but because my brain is weird and crazy, I just simply don't sleep well. I can't remember ever in my entire life having an uninterrupted night's sleep. Like usually sleep involves like sleep for an hour, be awake for 2 hours, sleep for an hour, be awake for an hour, sleep for 2 hours, and then eventually at some point in the morning, just sort of give up and get up. I don't recommend having insomnia if you can avoid it.
Moby, somebody asked if you were ever on Rich Roll's podcast. You were, right?
Yeah, Rich Roll is an old friend, and in fact, the first time I was ever on a podcast was Rich Roll's podcast, because in my technological ignorance, I didn't know what a podcast was. And Rich Roll said, hey, do you want to be in my podcast? I was like, what's that? Is it a iPod? It's something that you put on an iPod. I didn't know what it was. And yeah, Rich, I love Rich. And, you know, really the way he sort of brought like intelligence and athleticism and ethics to animal rights activism and veganism. So yeah. And Rich, why hasn't Rich been on Moby Pod?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
He should be.
So Rich Roll, when we're done with this, I'll text Rich Roll and get him on Moby Pod, hopefully. By the way, Moby Pod is the website that Moby Pod is the podcast that Lindsay and Bagel have, and we've talked to everybody from Steve-O to Hunter Biden to, I mean, we've talked to so many people. So if you have some spare time, go listen to Moby Pod, because we also don't have ads, because a lot of ads are annoying. Maybe at some point we'll have ads, but it seems like if we can avoid them, why not?
So another question from the chat is, do you ever listen to your own old music?
Well, when I listen to my own music that I made in the past, sometimes it's really interesting, because obviously if I hear a song from 1994 that I wrote, it's almost like a geographic time capsule, because immediately I think to myself, okay, it's 1994, I'm living on Mott Street in New York City, I'm working in my little studio, I have hair, Bill Clinton is president, the World Wide Web hasn't really been invented yet. Like immediately I can remember what's going on, like what the light looked like outside the window of my studio, who my neighbors were. So old music for me is a time capsule to when it was made, how it was made, where it was made, what was going on in the world. The music of mine that I listen to regularly is my ambient music, because, as mentioned, sleep is not my strong suit. So one of the only things that actually helps me to fall asleep and stay asleep is listening to ambient music. And that's one of the reasons I make so much ambient music, is because I sort of make it for myself, because it helps me sleep and stay calm. And then I hope that maybe it helps other people sleep and stay calm as well.
People are asking if you have any new music coming out anytime soon that you're open to sharing or talking about.
Yeah, it's that question. Like, of course, I want to talk about all the new music that I'm releasing. And then the question is, why wouldn't I? Because I'm not Beyonce or Taylor Swift. It's not like it's not like you have like hundreds of millions of people. Like, it's not like me releasing new music is press-worthy. Like, I'm not blowing any exclusives that the media would get excited about. So yeah, so I'm doing a lot of collaborations with really great producers, and I mean, that's all. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna try and be media savvy for a second and just say that over the next 6 months, I'll be releasing a lot of new music with a lot of great collaborators.
Separate from Moby Gratis.
Separate from Moby Gratis. And all I can say that's super annoying is I'm just gonna wait and say who the collaborators are, because they're really, there's such diversity. You know, it's from the ambient world to the dance world to the R&B world to the drum and bass world, so like really cool collaborators. So I'm sorry to be super annoying and not say names, but I don't know if they would want their names said, because they're also collaborators and they might want to make, I don't know, big announcements. One thing I can say is that sometime really soon I'm releasing a new ambient album. We're just finishing it right now, so maybe even like in a couple of weeks releasing a new ambient album.
Do you want to talk about Circle Odyssey? Because people are asking about Circle Odyssey, and like there's 2 shows, and what's the plan?
Sure. So Circle Odyssey, and it's spelled CERCLE, Odyssey, is, I believe, a French company, and they do these immersive concerts that are so cool, like traveling immersive concerts, and the whole world of like immersive experiences. Like Lindsay and Bagel and I went to a few in New York, and the one that really stood out was Mercer Labs. Whew, that was cool. I mean, it's amazing. So Circle Odyssey is the traveling version of that. They go around the world and they film these using, I believe, film, or at least like super high resolution digital. Bagel, it's okay.
It's okay.
I know you're barking at super high resolution digital. So they go around and they create all this film, and they do these events with everybody, I guess, from like Max Richter, me, lots of other DJs, and that's what this is. So on May 9th in LA, I'm doing 2 shows with Circle Odyssey, one at 5 p.m., one around 9 p.m., and it's a live concert with strings and guest vocalists, but it's also got a big DJ element to it. So it's a different type of show for me, in that half the show is very geared towards like vocals and live instruments, and the other half is much more electronic and more DJ oriented. So hopefully, even if my show is terrible, the visuals will be amazing. So like, if I have a terrible show, just turn the other direction and look at the visuals.
Okay, so there's questions coming from the chat, which is really great, and thank you to everybody who's chiming in because that's very fun. But also we got a bunch of questions from Instagram. Maybe I can ask you a couple of those. So here's a great question. What are some of your current artistic goals and dreams?
Current artistic goals and dreams. That's a really great question, and one I should think about more. Because I tend to think about activist goals, in my own tiny way of like addressing and promoting animal rights, drawing people's attention to climate change and saying just because we ignore it doesn't mean it's going to go away, talking about microplastics and nanoplastics, and of course, very immediately trying to protect democracy. So I focus on those goals, and art for me becomes almost like a refuge separate from that. And so I guess first and foremost, my goal with art and creativity is trying not to compromise, which doesn't mean being willfully obscure. It just means not trying to second guess a marketplace, not trying to let algorithms affect creativity, because I think it's hard to make a case that commercial algorithms have ever made creativity better. So I guess my goal is just to try and make interesting beauty that I find interesting and beautiful, in the hope that maybe at least one other person might also find it interesting and beautiful.
Somebody asked, another question was, what is your current focus on animal rights and any tips for newbies?
So animal rights, obviously, I've got it tattooed on my arms. That's my life's work. And my approach to advancing animal rights is to just try everything. And that means everything from social media and funding documentaries and making documentaries and talking to people and using any resources that I have to draw attention to it. It even means, granted more so over the last 4 years, going to Washington and talking to legislators, talking to NGOs, reminding people that not only does animal agriculture kill 1 trillion animals every year, it also destroys the rainforest and causes climate change and causes ocean acidification and etc. So my focus is everything that with the understanding that I'm one person with limited resources, but it's trying to do everything. In fact, one really cool thing that we just sort of learned about is the world of animal translation. There's some amazing, unbelievably smart people in Silicon Valley working on animal translation, and it's viable. Like it's very exciting, and hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that in the future. And my advice to newbies is try to have animal activism and even veganism, if that's the path you choose to take, certainly is the path I chose, that's sustainable. And what I mean by that is in any activist movement, there's a lot of burnout, because you want the world to be a better place, and you go out into the world and the world doesn't necessarily want to change. And year after year, that can drive you crazy. And I've seen so many people leave the animal rights movement or leave the environmental movement or leave politics just from burnout. So my advice is, almost in a weird way, self-care is the first part of activism. You have to eat well, you have to be healthy, because the goal is to be an activist every day for the rest of our lives.
I got a question of how is speaking of self-care, how is life as a sober vegan in this crazy world?
Well, I've been a vegan for 37 years, but for most of that time I was a junk food vegan, and I've been sober now for about 17 years. So pre-sobriety, I was a vegan, but I only wanted to eat garbage. And trust me, vegan garbage can be very delicious. So my routine was, do a ton of drugs, drink 20 or 30 drinks a day, sleep until 5 in the afternoon, and then stumble down Mott Street when I woke up at 5 or 6 and go to some greasy vegan Chinese restaurant on Mott Street. And boy, oh boy, when you're hungover and dealing with existential drug-fueled alcohol addiction dread, and you walk into a greasy vegan Chinese restaurant on Mott Street, it's heaven. Like fried dumplings and TVP and seitan, oh, it's the best, but it's not very healthy. So once I got sober, I became a much healthier vegan. I moved to LA, did more yoga, started hiking and exercising constantly and only eating organic food. And it would be ironic if that's what kills me. You know, like being a drug addict, eating greasy vegan food, maybe that was healthier. But right now, this seems like a better path. And I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's other insights there, but I guess it's that idea of sustainability, personal sustainability. You know, like if you want to be alive and use your resources and time to try and make the world a better place, you have to take care of yourself and be healthy. And for me, that involves sobriety, veganism, and exercise.
This question came in on the chat on YouTube is, which country is best to travel to as a vegan for vegan travel?
Which country is best to travel to as a vegan? And to be fair, I haven't traveled much over the last 10 years, but I will say, oh boy, back when I used to tour a lot, almost everywhere at this point, almost every country has amazing vegan food. And that was one of the best parts of touring, was going to Russia, going to Belarus, going to Greece, going to Japan, going everywhere and finding out what sort of local vegan restaurants there were. And I mean, there's some places that have always been incredibly easy to be a vegan, like the UK, Ireland, Germany, which people might be surprised at, but Germany is sort of like one of the vegan capitals of the world. Canada, New Zealand, Australia, like these have all, like even 20, 30 years ago, all these places had, you know, really great vegan food. The surprising ones have been places like, you know, Brazil and Argentina, which people associate with meat. Finding amazing, like committed animal rights activists in these places who've opened vegan restaurants. And as mentioned, like former Eastern Europe, you know, Russia, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Slovenia, everywhere you'll find animal rights activists who are turning their activism into food. And that really is one of the things I miss about touring.
Here's a really fun question. You're gonna like this
fun
one.
Questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm not responding with emotion, but like, you know, being autistic. That's
If you could join any band or musical group in history, what would it be?
If I could join any band or musical group in history, luckily, I've had that experience already a couple of times. Meaning, you know, I went on tour with David Bowie and I played music with David Bowie. So he's not a band, but still I got to play Heroes with David Bowie and got to perform with Chris Christopherson and Lou Reed and so many different people. I got to play guitar with the Bad Brains, on and on and on. But honestly, and this is a very unevolved answer, it would be Led Zeppelin circa 1972-73. Just, I mean, that the juggernaut that they were, you know, the songs, I mean, just it's so special that, you know, those first 4 Led Zeppelin albums, somehow being in that or around that would have been amazing.
Here's a question that came in from Threads, which I think is fun, is have you ever experienced stage fright?
Have I ever experienced stage fright? Yes. Rarely. Usually I've experienced stage fright when I'm doing something that I haven't done before. Like one time my friend Jonathan Ames and I did a variety show. And before going on stage, I looked at him and I was like, oh, we haven't prepared anything. And it was that moment when you're about to like walk on stage and be naked in front of an audience. Literally, we were about to walk on stage and be naked in front of an audience. We decided the one thing we'd sort of planned was we were going to do a reverse striptease. And a reverse striptease is where you start naked and you put on your clothes. We thought it was funny to have two middle-aged guys get on stage naked and slowly put on their clothes. And I'm like, wow, this is the nightmare that people have, but we've created it. And I remember actually being nervous, not about being quasi-naked on stage. I think we were wearing sad tidy whities, but about the fact that he had done this many times, so he was very comfortable with it, but we hadn't prepared anything. And I was like, oh, we're just gonna wing it. And it ended up being okay, at least from our perspective, but I think the audience was a little taken aback at perhaps my lack of preparation.
What did you do in the show?
In the show, well, okay, there was a lot that happened in the show. We had an audience member come on stage and we played percussion on them. Our friend Mangina, Patrick, he is a very interesting performance artist. And really the highlight of the show was at the very end. We were all doing a chorus line dance on stage, and Patrick, aka Mangina, he's also an amputee.
Okay.
And while we were doing our kicks, his leg flew off and landed on a table and crashed, like knocked over a bunch of people's drinks. So that was hilarious. But during the show, Patrick, aka Mangina, and his then, I believe, wife or girlfriend, Valmont Sprout, if I describe it, you might not believe it. They got these form-fitting bubbles that they wore over their head, and they filled them with water and had like snorkels going out of their bubbles, and they sat there for 90 minutes with water around their head, just breathing. Naked.
Amazing.
Naked.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because Patrick, I don't want to get into it, but his name was Mangina because he would make these prosthetic female genitalia that he wore.
That's very on the nose.
Yeah. So Patrick was there just wearing his prosthetic female genitalia with a bubble over his head filled with water. And at the end we had to, of course, take the plastic bubble off, and there was water everywhere. So the whole show was very special, but just...
Where was it? Somebody asked if it was at Le Poisson Rouge in New York?
No, it was at Ars Nova.
Ars
We also
Nova,
did
yeah.
one at Mo Pitkins, but I don't think both those places are probably gone.
I think Ars Nova's still there. Here's a good question that came from Instagram. If you could live in a series or a TV show, which one would it be, and which character would you play? If you could live inside of one.
If I could live in a series or a TV show,
Oh, bagel
Okay.
going off.
okay, the vegan pizza has arrived. And David's excited. If I could live in a series or a TV show, it would be, I don't know. I think I would want to be Liz Lemon's live-in boyfriend or husband in 30 Rock and be friends with the gang, and go visit her at work and say hi to Frank and Toofer and Lutz and all the gang. Maybe go up to Jack Donaghy's office, say hi to Jonathan, the receptionist. So
What about Family Guy? Would you want to live inside of...
living inside Family Guy, I love Family Guy and I love The Simpsons, but I don't know. That would require a little more creativity because those aren't human people.
You could be a Stewie baby best friend.
Stewie's friends don't do too well.
Oh yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah, Stewie the
They
baby
don't
tends
last
to kill
too
his
long.
friends, or at least harm them.
People, my thing went away because I got a phone call. People are asking about the backstory of, actually this came through Threads, the backstory of Southside with Gwen Stefani and how she got involved in that song.
Oh, okay. So, in the year 1998, I was working on the album Play, and I thought it was going to be my last album because at that time, I lost my American record deal. I was broke. My mom had just died. It was a bad time, and I really thought Play was just going to be this last album, make it, release it, go back to school, become an architect or a city planner or a philosophy professor. And obviously it ended up doing really well, but while I was working on it, I'd written this song Southside, which is supposed to be a feel-good song about a postmodern apocalypse wherein life has lost all meaning.
Fun.
Pop music subject matter. And somehow my A&R person in the UK, I think, sent Southside to Gwen Stefani and said, hey, do you want to duet with Moby on this? And she said yes. And I was almost wanted to reach out to her and say, are you really? Are you sure? Because she would, at that time, No Doubt were huge. This was like, they were one of the biggest bands in the world. And I was this weird guy making a record that I assumed no one would listen to. So, yeah, so she came to the studio we were working at in Los Angeles. She did her vocals. She had such a good voice. So it just, I wish there was a better story, but basically someone asked her to sing on the record and she very graciously said yes.
Somebody on Threads asked how your cameo on RuPaul's Drag Race came about and if you're actually friends with Ru.
So, yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race, my cameo on that, where I got blown by a leaf blower, really hilarity. So New York in the 80s, when I first started, when I was going out in New York and DJing in New York, a huge part of nightlife in New York was gay nightlife and the drag scene. And also, the voguing houses. And the first real job I had in New York as a DJ was at Mars, and the main floor of Mars was, like the different voguing houses would come down and just have these like impromptu battles. When I say battles, just voguing. And so people like Willie Ninja, and that's where Ru came from. Ru was in that world, and so our paths crossed, everybody from Lady Bunny and Mistress Formica, and I mentioned Willie Ninja and Ru. It was just, the drag queens were the funniest, most wonderful people I knew. Everything, they're just so sharp and so funny and so acerbic and so glamorous. Like, it just was wonderful being around them. So I've known Ru since then, and when they asked me to be on Drag Race, and I've also, Fenton Bailey. David Fenton's a PR guy in New York. So Fenton Bailey, who has World of Wonder, he was also in that world, and James St. James. When they asked me to be on Drag Race, I just said, of course, what do you want me to do? And fully knowing that I was probably going to be, subjected to something humiliating, and I'm so proud that in fact I was.
Someone on IG asked, what was your favorite song as a teenager?
My favorite song as a teenager, wow. Because teenager, that involves a grand total of about 7 years. My favorite song when I was 13 was different than my favorite song when I was 19. But let me think, like a favorite recurring song. Like if I had to pick one song, oh boy. You know what it would have been? Probably the song Ceremony by New Order, which is also a Joy Division song. So there are two versions. There's the version with Ian Curtis singing, and then the version, Ceremony. With Ian Curtis, and then Barney also sings a version. So that would have been my favorite song as a teenager.
And then it's 11:40. Should we?
Sure.
Okay. So maybe just one last question that came from Instagram.
Yeah, so one last question, and thank you everybody for asking questions. This is really fun and interesting, even if I'm just staring at the back of my phone. But Dagel's here, and we have vegan pizza in a bag waiting to be eaten. So one last question. By the way, thank you everybody for sending in questions, and also have a really wonderful weekend, because today is Friday.
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 Okay, the last question came from Instagram, and it is, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy, it's interesting because I have recently been doing a new type of therapy with a new therapist, and that's sort of one of the questions, like, where do you find happiness and safety? And when I was asked that question, one of the things that made me happy is I had so many answers, and I guess that's something to be grateful for. It's everything from working on music and visiting farm sanctuaries and seeing rescued animals and playing with Bagel and working on creative projects with Little Walnut and hiking to the top of mountains and, watching old 30 Rock and Family Guy episodes. So for me, it's almost like an embarrassment of riches, because there's so many things. They're all quite simple. Like, I don't really like fancy things, don't make me happy. Just simple things like being at the top of a mountain and, standing in the sun and the wind. I'm such a hippie. Yeah. I
Okay.
think I've embarrassed myself now.
No. Do you want to say bye? Bye bye?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Bye
Okay,
bye.
thanks everybody. Bye.
Oops, I gotta move this thing. Okay, bye.